Out in the remote County Kildare countryside, the Tordoff brothers lead from Block and Butler, and a gap is open to the third place crew of Swallow and Wilson.
And now we can see that the K2 crews are getting into their stride. They're easing into the race. This section of river is twisting and meandering.
And yes, there goes Swallow and Wilson just coming into the picture there and making their way up, chasing hard from behind. Meanwhile, in the K1 class, Fergus Cooper is setting the pace, followed by Malcolm Banks and James Smith. This group are now threading its way through the K2 back markers. Well, here we are back heading for Strafford Weir again, and this time it's for the touring doubles, which is just one of 21 classes in the Liffey descent.
And here we have our Frank Pinkerton from Hong Kong going over the wheel and going through a veteran of the race now. When you think you know better.
Temple Mills Weir, 5 miles completed, and the leading K2, Alan and Ian Tordoff, still out in front and increasing their lead.
This weir now is shot at an angle to avoid damaging the bow of the canoe. As you can see, there's a tree lodged there in the river, so it's going to make things difficult for many of the canoeists.
And the Tordoffs are safely over and followed closely by James Block and James Butler, both over without any problems. Vanessa Weir, and it's the Tordoffs heading that way.
Here you can see they have to shoot at an angle of 45 degrees to avoid damaging their bow.
Tordoff safely over, and it's now the turn of Block and Butler, and they are nicely over also and on their way. New Zealander Aaron Cox and England's David Velvin have moved into third place ahead of Swallow and Wilson, and once again they are safely over.
Note here the style of the leading K2 crews with good, deep, slow paddle action, and both paddlers in perfect harmony with one another.
A nice view up the river of the chasing group. Number 131 there in front, Chris Bland and Roger Strevens, an Irish and a UK pairing. And behind them, Dave Francis and Conor Maloney from the Salmon Leap Club. And they're making their way nicely across the top of the weir, getting ready for their descent.
Bad approach here to Vanessa by Bland and Streven. A clash of paddles here at the bottom of the weir.
A nice aerial view of Selbridge there as the Tordoffs head under the bridge, and they are consolidating their lead. Selbridge is one of the popular vantage points along the course for spectators following the race to get close to the action. Vanessa Weir again, and it's Malcolm Banks having overtaken Fergus Cooper. He's the first K1 to this weir. And he's over safely, making his way out now, full of confidence. And yes, there goes Fergus now. He's a man should know this stretch of river very well because he lives not too far away. James Smith, third, K1. And that K2 canoeist, William Irwin and Fergal O'Hanrahan from the Wild Water Kayak Club. 184, the K2 crew of Morgan Cooper and Martin Hearns. And the K1s, Asa Cooper and Pete Connor. The K2 leaders approaching Castletown Rapids.
It's important here to keep paddling, to keep the momentum going and not to be put off your stroke by the strong currents. No problem here for the Tordoffs.
Well, once again, a beautiful aerial view there as the Tordoffs make their way along the 17.6 mile course. Heading into Selbridge, a large number of spectators on hand to give plenty of encouragement. Well, another beautiful view there. It's the lonely side of the K2 leaders, Alan and Ian Tordoff, out on their own as they power their way across Leixlip Lake. What a spectacular sight. And still chasing hard the English pair of James Block and James Butler, trying to cut down that lead that the Tordos have opened. And that's the entrance now into Leixlip Lake, and that's the 3rd and 4th placed K2s. Aaron Cox and David Belbin still ahead of Swallow and Wilson. And here are the Tordos now at the portage.
Racing down, just about to re-enter the Liffey, just upstream of Leixlip Bridge. It's a tough portage, it's 500 metres long, and a considerable amount of time can be lost or gained here. Here we can see them now, just approaching the river.
And I'm sure it is important at this stage that they get quickly into that boat and get on their way again, because not too far behind you have the chasing pair of James Block and James Butler. Still in touch with the leaders, not too far off, but looking a little bit worse for wear.
Important here that the lads get their spray decks on properly, because there's quite a few rapids ahead of them.